31. What shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? 32. He that spared not his own Son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Romans 8, 31 and 32.
620 Live, so that we may all speak boldly. Are you enjoying this study on stress and what the Bible says about it? Hopefully it and the sound of my voice is not causing you any stomach issues which can be caused by stress. Some of the problems you may get whenever, a lot of stress is in your life is actually in your stomach and with digestive issues such as irritable bowel syndrome, indigestion, nausea, and yeah, I think that's something that we all have, from time to time, but stress is a adding factor, I guess is the way to say it, to, to increases your chances of having those. And again, some of those may be family genetics, some of those may be due to, other things that aren't caused by stress, but what I'm saying is that stress is one of those things that can add to the chances of you suffering from that. Now, I remember in my younger days, I say never get indigestion, but I don't recall ever having gotten it. But the older I get, the more that it happens, and the more that me and heartburn, are becoming closer and closer, and the more and more I'm like looking at the different flavors of things such as Rolade, Tums, and other things, because I used to eat any kind of spicy thing that I wanted and it not bother me at all, and nowadays it's like, I judge do I want to eat it because I'm pretty sure it's going to give me heartburn or what. And I'm not saying that I am stress free by any stretch of the imagination. But I am better about it than what I used to be, and I let more things than not just roll off my shoulders or roll off my back like, water on a duck. But, there's still some things there from time to time. Did you know that stress can also make you irritable or very short-tempered? Now, I think this is probably one that's more along my lines than, maybe the stress eating is the most, but, I'm not sure if it's stress, which I really don't think it is. I think it's just more the older I get, the less patience that I have, but that could be, the short temper due to stress. But, I've also known people who have very short tempers, and they are highly stressed individuals. But stress can make that temper fuse really short, and the least little thing ignited, and then it explodes like, explosive placed in a building to knock it down. So, there's cause for it, and it's them type of people that you try to avoid. I try to stay out of their way. And, there's times when that's impossible, and, you have to deal with it, and you have to know how those people are. The short temper and the quick to snap, whichever way you want to look at it there, it goes back to the high blood pressure that we mentioned in the podcast, Matthew 11, chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. So, it's one of those things that, you need to keep a check on, and the one thing can lead to multiple different problems or areas where, it can cause issues, things like that. And another way that this can bother you is that, stress does affect your sleep, and that can add to the shortened temper fuse, which is more along the lines whenever I get it. Because I do suffer from non 24, being blind, and you don't have very much visual stimulation there. So your sleep patterns can get messed up. Yeah, thankfully, now, though, mine's pretty much settled. I mean, I still have those nights where I can go to sleep at, say, 9 o'clock and wake up at 11 and be up the whole next day. Uh, but it's days like that, tend to make my fuse really short, where I don't put up with a lot more that I would normally do. Times like that when, a baby crying wouldn't normally bother me, but it's because I've had a total lack of sleep that it's like, will somebody please shut that baby up? you know and I love children, and I love babies and things like that. I'm not saying that I don't, but it's days like that even I get on my own nerves. So you know it has leading factors from several different points that can cause short fuses. You feel that anyone and everyone is against you, wanting to bring you down or cause you harm, like maybe not necessarily in physical ways, but in other ways. You know, they seem like they're attacking you from all different angles. Up, down, side to side, straight in front of you, from behind you. But more than just that is what it's attacking. I believe that it's Satan that can cause you to have more sleepless nights than God calling you to wake you up so that you can pray for other people. I'm not saying that God doesn't do that, because I firmly believe that He does, but I think that Satan, who has power here on this earth for now, is the one more times than not that's waking us up, because he knows that we're a Christian, and he knows that people are watching us, and he knows that with us with a short fuse that we're likely to snap, and people that may be on the brink of accepting Jesus would see that and be like, well, I don't need any part of that. I can do that all on my own. Or say you've quit doing any of the bad things that we consider bad of this world, and that will cause you to stumble back into that lifestyle, and thus Satan has put a black mark on your testimony, I guess is a way to say this here. So I believe a lot of it comes from him, because he wants us to stumble and to fall and to mess up and to do things like that, because he wants us to not be out there witnessing, not to be out there spreading the word of Jesus. And and he does it more than just that. Like, for instance, me recording this, and he'll put it in my head like, oh, you can do it later, you can do it later, you can do it later, and I'll put it off. I'll procrastinate, which is a sin in and of itself. And then I'm pushed up against like it being released on Wednesday. I have to edit it and upload it on Tuesday then. So it's like it pushes me to the edge because of my procrastination, and that's something that I'm really, really trying to work on. And don't get me wrong, there's some days whenever like my allergies or sinuses are really bad, and my voice is not the best in the world. And I know it probably scares some people out there anyways, but there's some days when it's worse than others, and I want to record, but I can't, because I sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks, or something along those lines that is just horrible to listen to. So I don't record then. And or some days when I don't sleep good and, my voice is really scratchy, or, you know, I think he does things like that to mess us up because he sees the good that we're doing. And I hesitate to, say that about myself because I don't want to seem like I'm tooting my own horn, because that's just not me, you know. But pushing through those times when, you can, it is a victory, for us over him. Or at least that's the way that I, particularly see it. Because anytime he's not victorious, I think that we're victorious, over him, through the power of Jesus, as always. So I'm not saying that I'm going to record whenever I do sound like Alvin, from the Chipmunks, or I sound like I've smoked like 45 packs of cigarettes in an hour or whatever. But, sometimes it's just that he puts a feeling on me like, you don't feel like doing it. And I don't. So I don't record. And like I said, then that pushes me, a day closer to the deadline to get it recorded, edited, and uploaded. So, we can know what he's doing, see that he's doing it, and yet we still allow him to do it. And like I said, I got my hand raised here because, that's the way that it is for me sometimes. Not every time, uh, but, and he can also mess with us in other ways. Like, for another example is that last week's was, Matthew 11:28 through 30. Well, I usually type down an indication, that I've recorded that, because I keep all my notes in one file. Well, I didn't see that note in there, and I thought, well, I'm pretty sure I done it, but, I do like research and stuff like that, so, I thought, well, maybe I just did the research and didn't record it. And usually I'll check like my files to see, because I don't delete the recording until the week that it's posted. Well, I hadn't gotten around to deleting the one from Matthew 11, that we did last week. So I sat here and recorded it. In fact, it was 2 weeks worth whenever I recorded it this time. And lo and behold, then I look and see, oh, I had evidently saved them in a different file and had already, recorded it, uploaded it. And I started to release it anyway, but, I was like, no, that's just no. So, I mean, he can mess with us in different ways, and I'm, laughing about it because it's funny to me that, I did that, and how it was like, I think it was like around a total of 42 minutes. I'm like, at first I thought, well, I just wasted like 42 minutes of my life. But, I really didn't, because evidently I needed to read it again. I needed to go over it again. And so I did. And it's like a big reminder that, hey, just give it to God. Let go and let God have it. But, that's enough reminiscing, I guess. And I put it in quotation marks here, against us, means that nothing can defeat us. Now, I've told you that about what, Satan did with me in the recording and other things. That does not mean that there cannot be things that come against us, because things are going to come against us. All parts of the world are going to come against us. Maybe not all at once, but the thing is that things are going to come at us. Fiery darts of the devil, deadlines, something else pops up that's a little more important, or, after school specials, or no matter what it is, things are going to attack us, and things are going to come against us. But with the power of Jesus, none of that can defeat us. None of it can defeat us, because Jesus is always victorious. It may not always look like it. For instance, the devil thought he was victorious when Jesus died on the cross. But however, It was all in his plan, and he was victorious whenever he rose from the dead on the third day. Jesus is undefeated. He is all powerful, and he will never be defeated. So anything that comes against us, and us being the people that are in, have been saved and are in the family of God, none of that, none of the world, none of this can defeat us. If our body dies here, if you're a martyr, then your next breath is in heaven. So nothing here on earth can defeat us as long as we are in God. Now, I want to, and I go back to me laughing about recording Matthew again, and I'm sorry if I refer to that a lot in this podcast, because it's funny to me now, because, my note here says that don't stress about those things that bring you down. I mean, whenever I realize that I could have gotten mad, I could have gotten upset and said, well, I recorded, I'll just post up there anyway, or, just not re-recorded or done another recording of this, actually. But I just laughed about it, like, that just goes to show you need to pay attention, and, that you don't need to let the things of this world bring you down. Do I think Satan was in charge of me re-recording that? No, I think so, yeah. Was it him that kept me from making the note that I had already done that one? Yeah, I think so. Because, I was procrastinating. So, it's like he got one on me, but, I'm not going to let him be victorious in this. So, those things that could bring you down, or that do constantly bring you down, don't worry about them. Don't worry, be happy. Thinking about the old, I think it was Billy the Bass, like, don't worry, be happy. And that's probably the most you'll ever get me to sing on here, because I don't think that I can. Anyway, what I'm saying is, don't worry about those things that bring you down. If you've given it to God, then leave it with Him, and He'll take care of it. That's something that I can promise you, and that's something that you can take to the bank, as people say. When times like that happen, we need to remember Romans chapter 8, verse 31. That, repeat it to yourself over and over. Any part of it, the whole part, whatever it takes for you to remember, then go for it. Remember that at the end of the day, or at the end of the confrontation, at the end of the conflict, that Jesus is victorious. He cannot be beaten. He is 100% undefeatable. He is the world heavyweight champion, so to speak. And we've all heard in our lives that God is omnipotent and knows all and sees all. So therefore, He sees us going through whatever it is that we're going through. And we need to remember that He's watching out for us, that He is protecting us, He's guiding us, and He's there for us. Whenever we think that we are alone, God is there. And I'm not sure about you, but that is really comforting to me, to know that, and to have that in my quote-unquote back pocket, so to speak. So we need to remember that, and no matter what, we also don't need to forget that God sent His only Son Jesus to die for us, so that we could accept Him, come into Him, be in that family, be adopted in, and have that person to talk to whenever it seems that we have nobody else. And I think there's no problem with getting saved. So only us getting in our own way. But I think a lot of times we often become complacent and just, remember that God sent Jesus to die for us. And we just, basically, that we take it for granted, and it is something that should never be taken for granted. Take this from someone who, took hearing and sight for granted, or taste for granted for that matter. You know, it's something that you don't think about. You know, like, oh, I can see, oh, I can hear. But you know what? That can be taken in an instant. Trust me, I was there, am there now. You know, and I love every taste, you know, and all now, because there for a while I could not eat. You know, it was through a feeding tube. So now the taste may be absolutely disgusting, and yes, I've had some of those, such as the, you know, earthworm flavored Harry Potter bean. And yes, it's disgusting. But you know, but still to be able to taste, you know, does it for me, does it suck that I can't see? Yeah, some days it does. You know, and I'm just being honest here, but you know what? I may be blind, but the silver lining is I can taste, I can feel, I can walk. You know, there's so many people who were in less horrific wrecks than what I was in that can't do that, that aren't alive anymore. So what I'm saying here is, don't take anything that you have for granted, especially don't take the fact that Jesus died for each and every one of us. Do not take that for granted, because that is a special, special thing. You know, that knowledge that Jesus died for us is very special. We need to, like I said, don't take it for granted, and keep it at the forefront of our mind all day, all day, all day, every day. And yeah, I know I repeated all day 3 times there because it's super important for us to do this. You know, I'm not saying that we throw it away as in, like, you know, just a piece of trash, but we often just, like I said, take it for granted. And, you know, it's not that it's any less powerful, but it's like its meaning becomes less to us because, again, like me taking my eyesight for granted, we take it for granted. Now, you know, the sacrifice that Jesus did for us is a gift freely given. He paid it. He went through it. He was beaten, bloodied, tortured, you know, mocked, and you know, he's still mocked today. But he was beaten so bad that you could see his bones. I mean, he bled probably more than any human has ever bled in history. You know, and yet he still died for each and every one of us. And this is the greatest gift that has ever been or ever will be given to anyone. So why should we take it for granted? Even after we've accepted it, we still take it for granted. We need to really pay attention to that and keep that, you know, at the forefront of our mind. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself and getting on your nerves, but it's one of those things that's extremely important. You know, since this is the most important gift, we need to also look at it like this, and this, you know, lighter in this aspect. If God would give us that most important of gifts, why would he hold back other little gifts, or, you know, what we would consider smaller, littler gifts from us? You know, the gift of his son was very expensive. I mean, it cost him his son's life. Granted, Jesus, you know, rose again. I know this, and, you know, you do as well. But that was a gift freely given, and the most expensive gift freely given. So why would he even begin to spare the expense of other gifts for us, such as, you know, the gift of being able to talk to groups, or the ability to be able to write books if that's your forte, or, you know, the gift to, you know, get down on other people's level that, you know, may not can understand the $25 words, you know. So why would he hold back gifts from his children whenever, you know, he didn't hold back the gift of his son? Yeah, it's just something that I want you to think about here. You know, think about, why would he hold something back? He wouldn't. You know, if he gave his son, he'll give you other stuff. But what we also need to remember, and I say this in closing, is if it's in God's will for your life. It may not be in His will for your life. And with that, we need to be understandable, understand that, and most importantly, accept that. We don't get everything we want, but we will get everything that we need. I'd like to take this time to invite you to Sparks First Baptist Church in Sparks, Georgia. Sunday services begin at 9:30 a.m. with Sunday school, followed by morning worship service at 10:30 a.m. and evening service starts at 6 p.m. Wednesday services start at 7 p.m. and you can find these services, if you're unable to attend, on the Sparks First Baptist Church Facebook page. We would love to have you join us. Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to me. I just ask that you please like, share, rate, review, and if you want to keep up with each and every one of the podcasts, be sure to subscribe as well. You can visit us on the web at www.620lifepodcast.com. Again, that's www.620lifepodcast.com.